What is going on, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I have 5 bold predictions for the UFC in the year 2024. These are definitely out there for sure, but I believe that any of these 5 things can happen. I truly believe so. I kind of went through this list for like the past hour or so, literally thinking damn, what could possibly happen in the year 2024 for the UFC? And I came up with these 5 things. So if you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel if you like UFC and MMA related content. Let's go ahead and get right into the video. My first bold take, my bold prediction for the year 2024 is that Justin Gaethje will retire. I think Justin Gaethje has maybe 2 fights left in him, in my honest opinion. He said in his post-fight interview after he faced Rafael Fiziev that if he's not fighting for the title, what is there for him to fight for? What is the reasoning for him to fight? I mean, money, maybe, but I feel like Justin Gaethje's made so much money. He's gotten so many performances of the night, fight of the nights. I mean, he is set for life pretty much at this point in time, right? He's probably made millions and millions of dollars in the UFC. What is there left for him? He has to start thinking about his health. He puts himself through wars every single time he's out there. I mean, you look at all the fights in the past between him and Michael Chandler, him and Dustin Poirier both times. Even him and Khabib, him and even fucking Michael Johnson in his UFC debut. All of these fights, he went through wars. Him and Tony Ferguson, even though he put a beating on Tony Ferguson and he should retire, but that's besides the point. I believe it's over for Justin Gaethje. I think Justin Gaethje is going to be done after Islam, if he loses to Islam Makhachev, which I believe he will. I think Islam Makhachev is on a whole nother level right now. I think he's probably the best fighter on the planet as we speak. I think he will lose that fight, and I think it's over for Justin Gaethje. Maybe one more fight after that, but maybe the trilogy between him and Dustin Poirier. But after that, what else is left for Justin Gaethje to do? You know, I feel like his legacy, obviously, it means so much to him to become the champion. There's nothing else in this sport that, I mean, he's accomplished pretty much everything except become the undisputed lightweight champion. Because he's tried, how many times? Twice? This will be his 3rd opportunity to become a champion once again. Or not once again, but his first time, because, interim champions to me don't count. Him beating Tony Ferguson and him becoming the interim champion, that doesn't really count in my honest opinion. So this is the opportunity. This is the opportunity to become champion. And if he loses, which I believe he will, I think it's over for Justin Gaethje, and I think he will retire next year. Obviously, I believe that fight is going to happen next. They're not going to do Charles versus Islam next. I think they're going to do Justin and Islam Makhachev next, maybe maybe UFC 300, who knows, maybe before then, maybe in March. But for now, I believe that this will be the end of Justin Gaethje as a fighter, in my honest opinion. So that's my first bold prediction for 2024. Number 2 is Islam will remain #1 pound for pound for the entire year of 2024. I think, listen, this might not be a bold prediction, but I mean, who else is there to me? It would have to be somebody to beat Islam Makhachev to take that #1 pound for pound spot, or John Jones, I guess. But even if John Jones wins, do you take that over? You take Islam Makhachev's #1 pound for pound away from him, especially if he beats a guy like Justin Gaethje or Charles Oliveira, or whoever he faces? No, I don't think you do that. I think that he's going to remain undefeated. Well, not undefeated because he has 1 loss, but remain unbeaten for the year 2024. I think he's going to fight maybe twice this year, or 2024. And I think he's going to win both fights and going to remain the #1 pound for pound king. There's nobody else to me that's remotely close right now. If you're talking about all the other champions, you look at Alexander Volkan obviously can't be because he just lost to Islam. It can't be Sean O'Malley, in my opinion. I don't think he will do enough. It can't be Pantoja. It can't be Leon Edwards. It can't be, Sean Strickland. Maybe Aspinall, if Aspinall can fight a few times and but I mean, still, even then, do you put him over Islam Makhachev, who has been unbeaten and dominant as the lightweight champion, if he's able to get through the entirety of 2024 unbeaten? No, I don't think you can. he has to remain the number one pound for pound. I think Islam Makhachev is on a whole nother level right now. I think that right now, we're looking at one of the best fighters in the history of the sport. I know that I might sound crazy saying that, but I think he's going to solidify his legacy next year too. And I think he's going to start we're going to start having interesting conversations about Islam Makhachev. Is he a top 10 fighter of all time? Is he maybe in the future, maybe when we're going into 2025 as well, is he a top 5 fighter of all time? If he's able to keep racking up wins in the lightweight division and maybe go up a division, and let's see what happens there, you know what I mean? Who knows what can happen to Islam Makhachev's legacy? I think that is fantastic. I mean, it would be great for him to go throughout the entire year undefeated and unbeaten, and then probably go up a weight class in 2025 and then fight either whoever is the champion at 170 pounds, because who knows? But I do believe that he will be the lightweight champion starting and ending 2024. I think Islam Makhachev is not going to lose at all, and he's not going to lose his number one pound for pound spot, even for John Jones, in my opinion. So that's my next, even though that's not really a bold take, I feel like this, out of all the takes that I have here, this is the most likely to happen. So yeah. My next one is that Nate Diaz will return to the UFC and fight Dustin Poirier at UFC 300, and that will be a marquee matchup on the main card, probably the co-main event of the card. I genuinely believe that is to be the case. Imagine, let's just say, let's throw out a hypothetical here, right? You have Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz, right? And listen, you throw the bag to Nate Diaz, and I'm telling you right now, I still believe he has an itch for MMA action, 100%. I believe, and the UFC, trust me, they have the money to pay him. And if they do, he comes back to the UFC on a one-fight deal to fight Dustin Poirier. Maybe Dustin Poirier asks specifically for Nate Diaz to fight him on UFC 300. Right now, it seems like Dustin Poirier doesn't want to fight anybody in the lightweight division. Let's just be honest. So he will fight Nate Diaz. Let's just say they have a press conference for UFC 300, which obviously they will. And let's say Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler is the main event. And you have Conor, Nate, Dustin, and Chandler all in the same press conference. That will be absolutely insane. That will be absolutely fucking crazy and amazing for the sport. For Conor McGregor to be on the same panel, same press conference as the two people that he probably hate, well, other than Khabib, that he despises the most, you know, standing across the stage from him. I don't even know where the hell, like, where would you sit? Conor McGregor would have to sit on his own lane because he hates every single one of these people. Like, he doesn't like anybody. You know what I mean? So it'll be kind of crazy to even just picture that. You know, will he be sitting next to Nate Diaz? I mean, the likeliness, I feel like he'll sit next to Nate Diaz more than anything. But I mean, that's a risk. I don't know if the UFC is willing to take that risk. For Nate and Conor to sit kind of close to each other, I don't know about that. Because Conor McGregor, he does some crazy shit all the time at any type of press conference. And you know a fight will break out. And he's not even going to be focused on Michael Chandler. Because he absolutely despises Dustin Poirier probably the most out of all those three guys. Out of the three guys, I think he hates Dustin Poirier the most. So that will be an absolute insane. But I do believe that Nate Diaz, they will be able to get Nate Diaz back. For UFC 300, for a marquee matchup, I mean, I feel like we're thinking about what is Dana White going to announce as the marquee matchup for UFC 300. Listen, Nick Diaz really, to me, doesn't scream marquee matchup. Let's just be honest. George St. Pierre, I highly doubt it. And George St. Pierre says that he will probably never fight in the UFC ever again. I highly doubt that will happen. So, and I know I did make a video about what is the marquee matchup that Dana White is saying. And I didn't even name Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier. But in my opinion, it has to be, in my honest opinion, Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz is the matchup I believe that Dana White is talking about or kind of hinting at. I think that is the fight that they're probably going to make. I think they're going to try and sign Nate Diaz for just like maybe a 1, maybe 2 fight deal, and that's it. You know, and I believe that if it's a 1 fight deal, I think Nate Diaz will be on board for that. Just to do that fight between, because that fight should have happened years ago. I mean, back in 2018, that fight should have happened, but it never did. But now we're finally possibly going to get it, and I'm actually really excited for it. If that fight gets announced, I'm actually really excited for that fight. I mean, I believe Dustin Poirier will win, but that still intrigues me big time between Nate and Dustin. That's a great fight. And I mean, obviously very exciting. Even though I do believe Dustin will win, I still think that's very exciting because it's always unpredictable with Nate Diaz. Let's just be honest, right? Because even if he's losing a fight, you saw what happened between him and Leon Edwards. I mean, he rocked Leon Edwards, who was the current welterweight champion. So anything can happen in a Nate Diaz fight, right? But anyway, the next fight, or the next prediction, bold take, is that Israel Adesanya will fight Alex Pereira at some point in 2024, and it will be for the light heavyweight championship if Alex Pereira is able to retain his title. If not, I still believe that they will want to do that fight. Even if there's no belt on the line, that can headline any pay-per-view for the year 2024. You can't tell me probably the biggest matchup, biggest trilogy UFC-wise, because obviously it's 3-1 in the saga between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. You don't think that the UFC don't want to do that fight? They want to do that fight. Pereira wants to do that fight. I'm pretty sure at some point in time, Israel Adesanya wants that itch to fight him again and even the score and win the trilogy in MMA. You know, to kind of have that edge in MMA. Because obviously it will still be 3-2 favoring Alex Pereira, but he wants to at least beat him in this sense, you know what I mean? Beat him, knock him out again, and have the edge MMA-wise, you know what I mean? I feel like they will both be down to do it, and I think it could happen maybe late 2024. Because we might not see Izzy for quite some time. I don't think that Izzy might not fight in the beginning of 2024. He wants to take a significant amount of time off. Now, I don't know. Maybe you might see him at UFC 300. I know we're talking about UFC 300 so much, by the way. But I mean, listen, it is like the fight card of all fight cards. And literally my next thing is about UFC 300, which is hilarious. But I mean, I can see him fight there because he is a marquee name. And a marquee matchup out there, I guess, is Khamzat Chimaev and Israel Adesanya. But I feel like Izzy doesn't want to do that fight. I don't think Izzy wants to fight Khamzat Chimaev. Not saying that he's afraid. But Khamzat Chimaev is a really tough matchup for a guy like Israel Adesanya. You know, a big-time, top-tier grappler like Khamzat Chimaev, I don't think he wants to come back to that. I think he wants to return to a fight between him and an Alex Pereira at light heavyweight. And I feel like they will grant that. Even if Alex Pereira is to remain the light heavyweight champion, I think they want to do that fight. I think the UFC doesn't even care about it. They say, fuck the rankings. Let's have him fight Alex Pereira for the light heavyweight title. There's history there. Israel Adesanya has a victory. The most recent fight between the two of them, Israel Adesanya knocked out Alex Pereira and sent him to the light heavyweight division. That gives the UFC plenty of reason to make that fight, and I believe that fight will happen, and it could happen. And let's just be honest, it should happen. The fans want it. The fans want to see the trilogy, MMA-wise, the trilogy. And let's see what happens. I'm super excited for that. I'll be insanely excited for that. And I think it will happen maybe end of 2024. I think Izzy will have a year off around then. And then he will probably want to fight in September or October, one of those months. Maybe September, and get a fight between him and Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira can probably fight maybe in May, or maybe, hell, like I said again, in UFC 300, and maybe he'll fight there. Who knows what he will do? I don't know. Maybe in May. And I think that will give him plenty of time to regroup and be able to fight Israel Adesanya at the end of the year. And I believe that fight will happen. Well, not with 100% certainty, but I think that fight will happen. At some point in time, it's going to happen. Let's just be honest. But anyway. And my final bold prediction is that that UFC 300 will do over 1 million pay-per-view buys. And it doesn't even need to have Conor McGregor. I saw Lucas Tracy's video the other day. Shout out to Lucas Tracy. Where he talked about how he will book UFC 300. And that fight card that he did, I'm not saying that they're going to do that fight card. More likely they won't. So many marquee names on that is absolutely insane. Where he had like Petr Yan versus Davis and Figueiredo. He had Kamaru Usman versus Robert Whittaker. He had in the co-main event Izzy versus Hamza. And then the main event was Islam versus Justin. And I think he has some other ones too in there. Like Derek Lewis and Jairzinho Rosenstrike. He had Dominic Cruz and Cody. I mean, that fight card will do over 1 million pay-per-view buys. That fight card will do 1.5 million. Let's just be honest. That fight card is absolutely nuts. And those are fights that absolutely make sense. And it will make sense going into UFC 300. That's a big-time fight card. That is absolutely insane. All the marquee matchups there that you have. That's fantastic. But I think even whatever with the UFC comes up, I think that they're going to do 1 million pay-per-view buys just strictly because it is the 300th event, and they're going to have big names on that. It's going to be somewhat stacked for the most part, and they're going to have marquee names for people to buy that fight card. It's going to do 1 million pay-per-view buys. Now, with Conor McGregor, that's obvious. Conor McGregor does 1 million pay-per-view buys in his sleep. Right? So, it doesn't matter who he fights. But they don't even need Conor McGregor, I think, and they will do 1 million pay-per-view buys. I think they're going to do it at UFC 300. UFC 300 is the most talked about event, and there's been nothing announced for that fight card. There has been no fights announced. I understand it is like months and months away, like 5 months away from UFC 300, but they're obviously trying to cook something up. You don't think that Dana White and the UFC and Hunter Campbell and all these guys are not thinking of things to do for UFC 300? They've been probably thinking about things for months now for what they want to do at UFC 300. Okay, let's see if we can get Nick Diaz. Maybe we can get, let's call George St. Pierre. Let's call Nate. Let's call Dustin. Conor. Maybe we'll have Conor fight Chandler there. They are trying to find a way to make that fight card big, and it's going to do 1 million pay-per-view buys. This one I'm almost guaranteed it will do. Like, this one is one of my biggest guarantees out of all the takes that I had in predictions. This is my most definitive one, other than maybe the Islam Makhachev one. But this right here, I think could happen, and I think it will happen. I think even without Conor McGregor, it will happen. But those are my bold predictions for 2024. Maybe some of them are not too bold. Some of them are probably like, I think the Justin Gaethje one is pretty bold. A lot of people might not even think that Justin Gaethje can retire. Some people might think, I guess. I take Justin Gaethje's words very seriously. The fact that he said that after the Rafael Fiziev fight, I think that he probably won't fight ever again after this if he loses to Islam Makhachev. So, I think that's the last we'll see of Justin Gaethje. Other than that, there might not be some bold predictions. Some people might think, oh, those are not bold predictions. But listen, I was thinking about it, and I feel like you also got to make it realistic. I can't just say, oh yeah, Conor McGregor is going to be the lightweight champion in 2024. Like, we have to be somewhat realistic, right? Maybe I could have said like Conor McGregor can fight twice this year and maybe win both of those fights, and that's a bold prediction. Maybe, and that's possible, but I try to be realistic, but be bold at the same time. At the end of the day, this is to be realistic, and I want to be able to come back to this video and be like, damn, I went 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5. Maybe I'll go 0 out of 5 on this video. Who knows? But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon with another video. Peace out.